12.
So this is the work that she has come to do. She has come to disrupt the fixity of the cosmic sequences. The sequence is something that is part of a chain, and there is, on the one hand, the journey of the individual development that starts from darkness, inconscience, ignorance, rises up out of it slowly towards a little less unconsciousness, but pushing its way out of darkness, it carries the burden of darkness hidden somewhere inside it, which is why again and again, however much we may climb towards the light, we fall back to the original unconsciousness, which is nothingness. There are two, you might say, ends of the chain. One is absolute unconsciousness. There is nothing, no manifestation, no creation, no play of consciousness. On the highest level, there is again no play of form and manifestation. There is only the supreme consciousness. It is in between that there is the play of A that leads to B, B leads to C, and carrying the burden of all the past experiences, we try to move forward. We can't, because the burden becomes heavier also as we go along. So she has come to disrupt this. Man is originally born beyond the world of nothingness, is the supreme, and man is a child of that supreme. Why is he not able to manifest that? Somewhere along the way he has lost touch with that origin. So she must make a raised ground, wipe off the past, wipe off our connection with the ignorant and unconscious beginnings, and start afresh. These are the two forces, the force of creation, of manifestation, of growth, of evolution, the force of destruction, that which pulls everything down, back to the original void, back to that inconscience out of which all things have struggled to come out. And it becomes a kind of a spiral of rising and falling. So this is the issue in this canto, the battle between these forces. The force of existence, which is life, which is the possibility of manifestation of consciousness. Life is a projection of the supreme, divine, creative Ananda, and the pull of the darkness, because it is there in us, the downward pull. We want to go back into the absolute rest, which is inertia. So this is the next sentence, a colloquy of the original gods. A colloquy can be understood as a conversation. It can be a debate. Debate can become a dispute. And this is what the whole point of Sri Aurobindo's yoga is. It is a clash between these two forces. One, the nothingness that is at the beginning, which is completely bare of all consciousness, the void of which death is the symbol. One is the divine energy that is constantly at work, that is pushing all things into a play of evolution and change and growth. So this is the battle. She is that force. She is not the supreme consciousness, but she is his force of manifestation. Her consciousness is his consciousness, but she is not a static consciousness. She is a dynamic power that is constantly there. So it can be a colloquy, or it can be a battle. And this is what it is all about. So, a colloquy of the original gods, meeting upon the borders of the unknown. Where does this clash or debate take place? Beyond time, beyond the field of our mental understanding. He goes back to the original principle, the why and the wherefore of all things. From where have all things come? They have come from the divine. At which point do all things become prey to the force of dissolution and death? A force has come and cancelled this power of manifestation. So this is the field of consciousness. It is not, the battle is in a world of consciousness. It is not a place that you can locate. Battles take place in a battlefield, but the battlefield is the field of consciousness. Always epics are around battles. You have to fight. Every day we have to fight. We have to fight against ourselves. We have our own difficulties, our own demons, our own oppositions that pull us down. After every aspiration, after every effort, there is always something that says it will not happen, you cannot do it because you are part of the play of forces of destruction, you are fodder for death. So this is what she has come to cancel. A colloquy of the original gods, meeting upon the borders of the unknown, her soul's debate with embodied nothingness. Her soul, she is the individualized aspect of the Supreme Consciousness. She has taken a form, she has taken up a responsibility. This is why Mother's work had always been so much more dynamic and obviously harder. Sri Aurobindo was the one who revealed the truth. She is the one who came to put it into execution, and at every step there was something that came in the way. Now the interesting opponent here is dissolution, death. Death has no body. And yet, death is a power. It's an almighty power. So he calls it an embodied nothingness. It's a power that occupies a big place in our existence. You live to die on the surface. This is an almighty power, and yet it is nothing. There are so many suggestions. First of all, it's like saying death is not. There is no such thing as death originally. And this he will continue to develop in Book 11. Death is because we are not capable of growing endlessly. And at some point, therefore, we give up. But this consciousness of, you might say, nothingness, of uselessness, of living for no reason, if it is only to die, that makes no sense. To struggle, to try to achieve, to try to arrive somewhere, and at some point we are told, that's it, your time is up, now you have to go. It has a sense of something that is perfectly pointless. Then why does it occupy so much place in the universe, in our consciousness? Because we cannot contain the infinite power of constant growth. We cannot, like just in our little daily lives, we cannot work forever. There is tiredness. There is a sense of, I want now to give up. I want to sleep. I want to rest. I can't go on and on. Well, it's the same thing on a much vaster scale. There is something in the human or the universal consciousness that cannot feel or cannot fight its way constantly forward. Mother keeps on and on hammering the idea of progress. Go forward, go forward, go forward. Constant progress with no regress. We can't do that. Because there is the element of something that resists. There is inertia. There is resistance. Resistance to progress. Acceptance of failure, of nothing. That is there. But again the suggestion. Originally, death is a fallacy. It's an illusion. It's not. It's because we are not capable of seeing. When I can't see the truth, for me the truth doesn't exist. When my vision does not contain the entirety of some truth, my vision will limit it to something small. It's my fault. It is the human nature that cannot encompass the whole truth. If I could, I would see there is no such thing as death. But for that I have to expand myself indefinitely, infinitely, become one with the infinite. And that is the journey of the human nature. And therefore, this debate, this battle, this dialogue, whatever you want to call it, must be wrestled out. That's why it's not just a mere debate, it's a battle. He uses it as a debate. Must be wrestled out on a dangerous, dim background. The starting point is absolute darkness, ignorance, unconsciousness, all the things that we go through, the suffering, the error, the failures, are because our starting point is unconsciousness and ignorance. Therefore, Mother has said in one of her talks, there is no such thing as evil or wrong. The only evil is ignorance. All things end in failure because we fail to grow continuously into the light. And so there is a fall. This is the paradise lost, this is the fall into the darkness, this is the coming down into the error again and again and again. Therefore, she has put on an embodied soul. She is the supreme universal consciousness who has become an individual, because then she can become a guide for other individuals. This is the role of Savitri, of the mother. She's taken on herself the load of the human effort. Her soul, her being, must confront its formless cause. Against the universe, weigh its single self. But there is a solution sometimes. If we have constantly to fall back into death, into destruction, into complete dissolution, the only solution, nirvana. Give up everything, enter into the vast, quiet infinity of the absolute highest transcendent consciousness, beyond time, beyond space, beyond manifestation. That is our origin, of course. We come from there. As we come down into the universal, we are part also of the universe. For that too, we are not trapped in our littleness. From the universal, we become the individual. The individual, for a long time, is aware only of himself. He is also the universal, which he has to become. The universal is also part of the transcendent, the supreme beyond the universe. That he is not aware. So these are the different states of the one who has put himself in these 3 degrees. These are called the statuses of the supreme: the transcendent, the universal, and the individual. And she has become an individual, but if you become part of the universe, you lose, you think, your individuality. Many yogas say that. Give up your separate identity, you become one with all things. There is no you as a separate person. You become one with the Supreme Transcendent. Then there is no you also and no universe either. These are different realizations. They are very true, they are very powerful. But if I have to lose my individuality, why was I given an individuality? Why must I lose something in order to obtain something else? Can I not hold on to all of them at the same time because they are aspects of the same? The true individual in me is the same divine as the divine that is above and beyond and all around. But man's mentality likes to make compartments. So if I accept one thing, I have usually the tendency to reject another. You say this is true, then that cannot be true. If this is true, then that other thing cannot be true at the same time. And therefore in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, you don't have any one yoga. It is integral yoga. It accepts all things. You have to expand your consciousness without losing the sense of being a person who has been given a chance to manifest the all. That is the supramental experience. The one is the all. Mother refers to this in one of her talks. When the first time, when Sri Aurobindo was in the Alipur jail and he had the experience of the all, called the all Narayan. But the all Narayan was everything. The guard outside was Narayan, the tree outside was Narayan, the individual was Narayan, the bars of the cell were Narayan, the judge sitting in front when he was in the court was Narayan. There is nothing but one. There is only he. And yet each one is distinct. The one is the many is the one. They are not different. But the mind will say, no, the tree is not the man. The judge is not the prisoner. We like to make, this is the whole problem of the mental man. Man has advanced into becoming a mental being. He doesn't realize to what extent this mentality has become an obstruction. So she has come to break that. Against the universe, weigh its single self. On the bare peak where self is alone with naught. The individual who rises from stage to stage in his evolution is the self. The consciousness grows, becomes more and more, comes out more and more into the open. There are two naughts. The nothing that is in the beginning, the void, the nothing which is above time and space, where there can be nothing, no line, no form, no shape, no manifestation. So man is the being that is between these two notes. If that is the origin, and that infinity is the goal, then life has no sense. Why are we given an individualized life for a short span of time, following a particular line of development? And life then has no sense. And love, no space, no place to stand. Love is a relationship that you can have with another life. You live for something other than yourself, not another person necessarily. It can be for anything. But all this is naught. If you come to that sense of illusion, then all these things make no sense. She says it does make sense. She must plead her case upon extinction's verge. Now slowly, the imagery that he will develop is the imagery of law. There is a certain law that sustains. Laws are fixed rules, fixed standards. They sustain some kind of an organized existence. At some point, these laws have to be broken, new laws have to come into place. And then those new laws again have to be changed until you can enter into a state of utter lawlessness where all things are part of one harmony. But she has come to face the universal tribunal, the judge, death, failure, time. These are the judges. She must plead her case. She has come to fight to prove that she has come to win and to manifest a new order, a new way of life. In the world's death cave, uphold life's helpless claim. Otherwise, we are always on extinction's verge. We come to go. But in the world's death cave, life therefore is death. We don't realize that there is really, we don't even have the capacity to contain the universal energy. Life is energy. How much of that energy do we really receive and contain? We can't. We are so small. The universe is a field of energy. The energy is infinite. And we are not aware of it. Everything in manifestation is energy. Matter is energy. Life is energy. Love is energy. Everything is part of the universal force. And yet, life cannot contain this. There is a kind of explosion, dissolution, death. She has come to fight for this new world, new order, new law, new creation. Mother keeps on emphasizing on the new creation. And then there is a possibility to justify, to prove that it is right what we do, to live, to love, to want to be, to grow. It's not that it makes no sense. Life is not illusion. Life is not Maya. The world is not something you have to give up. What you have to give up is your blindness, your smallness, your ignorance, your incapacity. Therefore, she must plead her case upon extinction's verge, in the world's death cave uphold life's helpless claim, and vindicate her right to be and love. She is not doing it for herself, she is doing it for earth and man. She is as if like the spokesperson of the human journey. She has come down from the highest, the absolute, to take up this challenge, because man on his own would never be able to do it. Man would never even think it is possible. That is always the role of the avatar. Takes down on himself or on herself a cause which by himself man would never be able to think that it could be possible. Altered must be nature's harsh economy. It's a harsh economy, that everything comes to go. A quittance she must win from her past's bond. The past, our original starting point, is inconscious. Again and again we go back into the inconscious, the fixity of the cosmic sequences that he has spoken of earlier, fastened with hidden inevitable links that she has come to disrupt. She has come to break and completely eliminate that. But man is unconscious matter. It's all very well to talk about the highest planes of consciousness and experience and light. What about not just the body? What about the original inertia, which contains the dullness, the heaviness, which never goes out from our nature? You say it's so impossible to change the human being. All you can do is you concentrate and you might discover your inmost soul, and you find moksha by identifying yourself with the soul, and you let go of the body will find its own end. It doesn't matter. You say, I am not my body, I am not my physical nature, I'm only the divine. But I'm also the physical nature. Because I'm nothing except what the divine has given me. If he has given me a body, it is his. Why? That is why in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, again, not just integral yoga, but the yoga of transformation. Not to accept the present mode of being as the final, it's a transitional state which has to be replaced by a new state. But there is a debt which the dead weight of the past ignorance has. It keeps on demanding whatever it's, you might say, it's due. Failure, fall, darkness, they are the things that we have always had. We have to come out of that bondage. And so that is here used, the terms from economics. Acquittance she must win from her past's bond. She must root out the connection with the original unconsciousness. An old account of suffering exhaust, strike out from time the soul's long compound debt, and the heavy servitudes of the karmic gods, the slow revenge of unforgiving law, and the deep need of universal pain and hard sacrifice and tragic consequence. It is through struggle and through suffering that we realize to what extent we are bound, we are prisoners. If we can feel that we speak of freedom, man's first, you might say, preoccupation is God, light, freedom, immortality. We are not free. We never have been free. We are tied. Only when we can change the starting point, break the chain from its origin, then only can we speak of freedom. Otherwise we are bound by ignorance, bound by failure, bound by weakness, bound by incapacity. We can't speak of freedom. So one of the things that make us want to break out is suffering. Suffering becomes a teacher. Man has lived, man has struggled, man has suffered, man has died. This has been going on for long and long and long eons, until a point has to come when he says, that's enough. This can't go on anymore. A new age, a new stage, a new world has to come. Again and again to rise in order to fall. The higher you rise, the lower you fall. It's almost that you increase your connection with darkness because you aspire to rise higher. Whatever goes up very high falls very low. Whatever does not rise very high does not fall very low. So when the man who aspires a little, very little, does not suffer much. The man who attempts a lot struggles much more and often does not succeed. Because he is not pure, he is not free from all the lower nature. The lower nature is the cause of what brings us down again and again and again. There is a higher nature, there is a lower nature. Man is a divided being. Man has to become one person. There is one part in him that climbs, that rises, not just dreaming, but even attempting. One part in him that does not even attempt, does not accept that it is possible to change. So this keeps on increasing. Strike out the soul's long compound debt. The longer and more you have advanced, you have evolved, the more complex your difficulties become. If a person is even on the mental level, the human level, has developed many possibilities, many faculties, many, you might say, capacities in his nature. Each of them has its own difficulty and its own obstruction. If you have only developed one thing, that will become your obstruction. A tree grows in one direction. It has to work its way out of the soil, no doubt. It has to push its way up to the sky. It is not easy. But it does not have any attraction for moving this side or that side or forgetting why it has come. But because I am a mental being, I have so many possibilities opening up in front of me. Each of them has its demands, takes hold of my nature, makes me forget what I was attempting before. So there are any number of problems that multiply. The more you have become evolved, the more your problems multiply. It's like a compound debt. The debt increases as you grow. And so the heavy servitudes of the karmic gods, man he has to pay the debt for each, you might say, error. Every action has its own reaction. That's the fundamental law. Action has to be followed by reaction. Not only in the domain of physics, in the domain of thought, in the domain of feelings, in the domain of effort, in the domain of human nature, there is action and reaction. That is the karmic, you might say, pattern. There is a sequence. Law, cause and effect, cause and effect. Man is part of this long causal chain. We are slaves. That's why we want freedom. We have never really known freedom. We cannot be free unless we have removed the original cause of our servitude, which is inconscience. Which I am wholly divinized, then only I am free. Only the divine is free, independent. Only the divine is not dependent. I am dependent on everything. Physically dependent, vitally dependent, mentally dependent. And yet we speak so easily of independence and freedom and all these things. And they really make very little sense. We are completely trapped in every way, in different parts of our experience. I am limited to my nature. I am only what I am. I don't know what you are. Then how can I impose my view on another nature? My mood, my mode, my method of progress will not necessarily apply to your needs unless I am you. And if I am you, that means I have removed my ego. The biggest cause of my problem is my ego. If I am trapped no longer in my ego, then only do I know what is the true sense of what is right. Otherwise it is not possible. So this is why there is a deep need of universal pain and hard sacrifice. You have to sacrifice this that really binds us, our ego. We love ourselves. We love our way. I say, according to me, I say this is right. According to me, this is what I should do, this is what you should do, this is what others should do. And all these things, others will say the same from their standpoint. And so there is a whole world of chaos and disharmony and discord and battlegrounds. You have all these. It's not only the domain of politics where you have clashes of different opinions. In every field of the individual life, I am a battlefield. Inside me there are all kinds of forces that are fighting against one another. And so I have to learn to give up one of them. All of them, except if I know what I am, if I want to know who I am, I have to give up my attachment to all the other things, my attachment, my bondage to ignorance. Attachment is when I am tied. I am tied to my lesser nature. I have to give it up. It's not easy. It has been with me for a long time. I've grown out of the mud and it has held me up. Like, cords that hold you up. You need help. You need to become a person. You need to have an ego. It will give you a certain individuality. Until you say, now the age of the ego is over. I've grown sufficiently, I don't need the ego anymore. I have to throw it away. Then it will not go away so easily, because it has been with me for a very long time. Life after life after life. That's why there is that aphorism by Sri Aurobindo, ego was the helper, ego is the bar. It helped me to become something out of absolute nothingness. I was simply, you might say, an agglomeration of particles, unconscious particles. I became somebody's, if not wholly conscious, semi-conscious. I became aware that I exist and I have a certain nature, I have a certain typical set of characteristics, my swabhava, my swadharma, all these are there. They have a certain formation and I live by them, I follow them. They give my life a certain pattern and order. That's when you have a stage where you pass through a moral, ethical, you might say, well-ordered existence. True. Until you realize, if I stay in that, on that level where I only obey the laws of what I call virtue, what I call right, what I call good, then I will never know the truth of all other things. I have to break out of that. So the ethical has to be replaced by the spiritual, by something much greater, much wider. And it's a big sacrifice. And it may not succeed for a very long time, and tragic consequence. Tragedy is not sorrow. Tragedy is the failure to manifest the spirit, what he calls the failure of the soul. In all of us, the soul is there. In most of us, the soul finally withdraws. It says, this embodiment cannot really manifest the soul much longer. I have to withdraw. So it is always a tragedy. But it becomes an opportunity. At sooner or later, usually later, we realize that I cannot stop at this. This is the human level. I have to grow out of this. And I cannot. I don't know how to. So she has come to show man how to do it. That is the role of Savitri. Out of a timeless barrier, she must break. She who was part of the infinite, the supreme, far above the universe, she must break in and plunge into this world of division, of darkness and unconsciousness. Out of a timeless barrier, she must break. Penetrate with her thinking depths the void's monstrous hush. Consciously plunge into the absolute darkness to realize that it is there, that in that absolute unconsciousness are the seeds of all new change. So this is the God's labor. If you have read that poem, if it's the pilgrim of the night, again another sonnet by Sri Aurobindo, consciously plunging down into the darkness, where all things seem to be a world of continuous failure. It's a monstrous world where when you are overwhelmed by impossible, you might say, manifestations of, there is no light, there is no voice of the eternal friend, as he says, there is no guidance. But to do this is a sacrifice of the avatar, which is how he says in the end of that poem, the sonnet, the pilgrim of the night, there comes no voice of the eternal friend, and yet I know my footprints' track shall be a pathway towards immortality. It's come down absolutely in the uttermost darkness, because it is there that vibrate the seeds of the new world. Again, another experience of the mother in 1958. She went right down at the very bottom of the inconscient. It's a monstrous world. Outwardly, she appeared to withdraw from her physical body, consciously plunging down into the absolute unconsciousness. And there, she says it was most hard and rigid and narrow and stifling. This is the courage, the heroism that is required. I struck an almighty spring, she said, there at the very bottom, that cast me up forthwith, immediately, into a formless, limitless vast, vibrating with the seeds of the new world. In the lowest are hidden the highest forces. They wait their time to slowly emerge. The two opposite poles are not opposite. The Supreme Inconscient is also an expression of the Supreme. But she has to be the one who makes that plunge. Penetrate with her thinking depths. Consciously she does it. The void's monstrous hush. Look into the lonely eyes of immortal death. Death is alone. There is nothing but death. All things are really eaten by death. Death is time. One of the names of death is Kala. Time eats up everything. There is nothing that lasts forever. All is just one final wiping off, pralaya. There have been, as Mother says, 6 pralayas. This is the 7th creation. And this time there will be no pralaya. This time there has to be the manifestation of a new world. Otherwise, death is almighty. He swallows everything. He is the eater. He is known as the eater. He is time. In the Greek mythology, where you have also a spiritual occult imagery, you have Kronos, who swallows everybody, everything. Until one Supreme God wins against Kronos, and that is Zeus. Otherwise, all his children he swallowed. All creation is swallowed by time. Nothing remains, only he remains. He is immortal. She look into his eyes, confront, dare, challenge, and say no. No to death. It is possible, as Mother says, death approaches sometimes. If you have the strength, you look at death and say, no, I will not let you take over. Death will go away if you have that conscious force. Usually he goes to some other person who has not got that strength or didn't expect, because he must have his quota. Death also has his quota. He comes close and he makes his demands. If you are in conscious touch with the eternal, and that is why it is very important to constantly remain, as you say, you were talking about the message, to constantly remain in touch with the Mother, the supreme source of all energy, and never lose that contact. That is the only protection, and there is no other. And with her nude spirit, measure the infinite's night. Measure is also to challenge. The infinite's night, darkness. She is pure spirit, only pure spirit and nothing but that. There is no wrappings of mind and life and body. In her essence, everything is spiritual. Body also is spiritual, mind is spiritual. So she is only an embodiment of flame of light and night. It is light versus night. So this is a description of what Savitri has come to do. Now he takes up the thread of the narrative. The great and dolorous moment now was close. During this past year, she has been doing her yoga. She has developed in herself, because she is also a human being, has entered the human state, sharing the human ignorance and difficulties and weaknesses. How else can she help the human nature unless she puts on that same nature? So she has done her sacrifice of accepting the human being's nature and working through that experience of suffering, pain, error, difficulty towards the supreme victory. So this is the battle. That battle is happening today. This is the end of the last sentence of the previous canto. This was the day when Satyavan must die. Satyavan is the soul of the earth. Satyavan is the embodied spirit. She has come to deliver that spirit from the clutches of darkness. A mailed battalion marching to its doom, the last long days went by with heavy tramp. The main sentence is the last days. The whole year has been a preparation. Life is a period of preparation. Time is a field of preparation. It's not just allowing time to just pass on. One day follows another, and the next day is followed by the next, the third. But prepare oneself for inwardly becoming capable of confronting the opponent. You can confront the opponent, destruction, if you are one with the power that can bring us victory, that is the divine. For us, it is not difficult to understand if you have accepted the mother as the Shakti, if you can constantly remain completely one with her, giving up as much as possible. It's not easy, but as much as possible, your own separateness, your own ego, your own demands, your own, all these things that really keep us cut off from her, gradually to remove them, become one with her, then it is possible to fight this opponent. The last long days were the days of her yoga. Finally, she became one. That is how you have the last lines of the previous canto. Went by with heavy tramp. He's giving you the image of an army. Each day is like part of a regiment that is marching to take over creation, existence, not hers. That is very interesting. Death will never touch her. Death has come to take Satyavan. Death knows. Death is very, very wise. He knows who she is. So death will never touch her. Death will take the embodied human spirit, and that is Satyavan, who is also the divine, but who has embodied himself in a human and therefore complex sheath, the kosha of mind, life, body. A mailed battalion marching to its doom, the last long days went by with heavy tramp. She's waiting for the time. She knows the date. Long, but too soon to pass, too near the end. She's waiting, and the time is coming, but coming just like when you are waiting for the attack. Every second counts. It's slow, and yet you know that there's just a few minutes, just a few days, and then the blow will fall. Alone, amid the many faces loved, aware among unknowing happy hearts, her armored spirit kept watch upon the hours. She is the one. She lives in the hermitage. She's come for others. She's not come for herself. All love her without knowing why they are so attracted to her. They're so dependent on her. But she's the one who is aware of the threat. When you are not aware of the danger, it's very easy to say, I'm happy. I don't know what is waiting for me at the next crossing in the road. So until then, I'm fine. To be able to know and still remain happy, that is not easy unless you are one with that who has made the whole plan of your journey. So often, knowledge gives us, you might say, the greater awareness of difficulties, unless you have the power that comes with knowledge. If I have the knowledge and the strength, then I can fight. But otherwise, I have the knowledge and I don't know how to combat my difficulty, then it increases my pain. And therefore, perhaps one, as Mother explains also in one of her talks, there is the proverb that ignorance is bliss. She says, I wouldn't say ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is perhaps an absence of the knowledge of pain that is waiting for you. So that way, in the meantime, you are okay, it's fine, everything is fine, nothing is wrong with you. Because we live in our little cocoon of ignorance. I don't know what is waiting for me outside, beyond my present moment, beyond my present nature. Therefore, to be unknowing makes you happy. But to have knowledge and not have power makes you very unhappy. If you have knowledge, you have to have power. Chit, Shakti, they must come together. Therefore, her armored spirit kept watch upon the hours. She is like the one who is the sentinel, keeping vigil. She is fighting just like an army that can go to sleep if there are sentinels, 2 sentinels usually, that stay up all night, don't sleep. So they are aware of the enemy that may invade in the darkness. We have darkness is a symbolic thing, darkness is ignorance. Night is also not darkness, but night is also the mother of light. Out of night all light comes, all change comes. Out of night dawn comes. So this is the whole play of the complexity of our human existence. Listening for a foreseen tremendous step in the closed beauty of the inhuman wilds. This is the forest. Forest has often been, it's not for no reason that the great rishis, the sages, they did their sadhana in the forest. Forest is a symbol of life. But it's just energy. To be able to bring together all the forces of life and point this energy upwards, this is tapasya. That is what the sages attempted. They did tapasya in the forest. Otherwise we just live. We don't even live, we exist. Why has she come? A combatant in silent, dreadful lists. In the Middle Ages, the lists, it's always with an S, it's not a plural. It's where 2 knights used to face one another on horseback with lances. This was called jousting. That enclosed area was called the lists. So here, the world or life is the lists. She is one of the knights. Death is the opponent who will come charging from the opposite direction. Usually these knights used to fight in the ancient times, in the Middle Ages also, for those who could not fight. A knight did not fight for himself. He would fight for a widow, he would fight for an orphan, he would fight for wherever there was injustice and those people who were incapable of fighting for themselves. He would take up their cause, which is why he would wear the colors of that widow, for example. I'm fighting for a cause. I'm fighting for, not for myself, but for something greater. So, she has come for the world. She has come to fight for the world. Not for herself, she has no need to fight. No enemy will stand up against her. But the world unknowing, for the world she stood. She has come for mankind, for earth. No helper had she, save the strength within. There was no witness of terrestrial eyes when two individuals used to have duels and joustings. There had to be witnesses, because there are rules and laws. You can't break out of that demarcated area. There are certain, there are very, very strict rules. She did not have any witnesses. No helper, no witness. The gods above and nature's soul below were the spectators of that mighty strife. That's all. The universal forces knew she has come to bring change. The gods are there to keep the world as it is. Each god has a role. Each god is allotted a particular station. This role or these stations can be changed, have been changed by Mother also. She has come to fight. All these gods that we worship, they have their place in the universe. And we can grow beyond them. You can outgrow them, you can rise above them. They know when their time is up, and they surrender. Durga has made her surrender to the Mother. Mother gives a beautiful description. The blending of Sri Krishna into Sri Aurobindo. They have their allotted field of experience and expression, and then they blend when they find that they are no longer required. Another force greater than them has come, and she absorbs that force. The gods are perhaps waiting. And nature, the field of manifestation and resistance. But nature is also the field of all evolution. Nature too is asking for change. Mud is asking for a time where a new life will grow out of the mud. A new tree will come. There is that beautiful little poem by Sri Aurobindo called A Tree. Earthbound, heaven amorous. Be bound to the earth, but to be in love with heaven. That's what a tree is. But we only love heaven, we don't know how to reach it because we are trapped. Our roots go down into the darkness. So we have to change from the bottom up. Okay. All right?